Good evening to all and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is all about Asian Games and it goes against China because China banned three Indian players from Arunachal Pradesh. Any editorial like this will talk about, provide the background information, Asian Games, and what exactly happened, denial of participation when it comes to three Indian players from Arunachal Pradesh, and what happened in the past, how China has been using sports events for geopolitical gains, and what is the response of India in the long run. As such, the bilateral ties not in going smoothly. In the long run, how to change the present situation. There's a broad framework. Let us start with the tone of the editorial. The tone of the passage or editorial is critical and disapproving of China's actions in using sporting events for political purposes. To be very specific, geopolitical gains. It highlights instances where China is accused of using sporting events for political purposes and expresses disappointment in the handling of these situations. There is also a sense of frustration with the current state of India China relations, bilateral ties, and a call for China to take steps to improve the situation. Now, coming to the editorial, what is a broad framework? You can see on the right the text, it provides a broad framework, and I'm going to take you in the same based on the framework. It starts with introduction to Asian Games, when they were opened, where they were opened, by whom, and how they were opened or launched. Then it talks about the objective of the Asian Games. Then, unfortunately, though there is an objective, it did not go in that direction. It provides contrasting information. Then, the main reason for writing this editorial, denial of entry to Indian athletes, especially three athletes from Arunachal Pradesh, and what they did in the past, or what China did in the past, and based on that criticism, and also past actions of using sporting events to gain political, geopolitical gains. Then finally, diplomatic relations and border issues between India and China. And it ends on a note, call for restoring normalcy. This is the broad framework. How does it start? Politicizing exchanges on China using sporting events to score geopolitical points. As I said, the editorial says China has been using sporting events to gain or to score. In this context, score means to gain geopolitical points. Coming to the word politicizing, let us start with the word politics, a familiar word, noun. And we have another related word, polity. Polity is also noun. Indian polity, Indian constitution, political system. But here, what is the word that has been used by the editorial? Politicize, part of speech word. Politicizing exchanges on China using sporting events. Whenever you come across sporting events, you have to recollect one important rule that goes with articles. What is that rule? When we talk about major sporting events or any sporting event for that matter, we have to use a definite article there. For example, World Cup, that is a sporting event. We have to say the World Cup. Another example usually I give Olympics, the Olympics. This you have to recollect. But what is the main idea of this editorial? China's denial of entry to Arunachal athletes shows up the distress in ties. Shows up, displays, expresses. It's a phrasal verb. Shows up what? The distrust in ties between India and China. But there's one important word here, denial. Denial, part of speech, noun. What is the verb form? You can guess the verb form. Word forms, parts of speech, the Wimbledon, the US Open, the US Open, all these. Here, deny is a verb form. Deny has two different meanings. One meaning, it means to say no to some allegation or someone says something, you say no. He denied something. He denied doing that. Second one, to refuse. Imagine someone offers you something you refuse to take. He has denied the offer. She has denied the offer. Two different meanings. Here, denial, noun form. China's denial of entry to unnatural athletes shows up their distrust in ties. It's all about this one, bilateral ties, and this particular event being used to aggravate the situation. Another important word here, based on that, you have to recollect athletes. And when it comes to athletes, generally we use one expression, track and field. Have you heard of this? Track and field. When it comes to walking, running, hurdles, steeplechase, all these events are related to track and field. That you have to recollect. Now let us go to the first sentence of the editorial. As I said, any editorial, it has to start with introduction. Here, introduction to Asian Games. The Asian Games, which were opened on September 23rd, which were opened, past tense passive voice, on September 23rd by Chinese President Xi Jinping in Hangzhou, following a spectacular opening ceremony on a scale that has now come to be expected from China. Before I go to the next slide, here you ask to understand the sentence. What is the sentence about? It is about the Asian Games, which were opened. When were they opened? On September 23rd. By whom? By Chinese President Xi Jinping, where in Hangzhou, following a spectacular opening ceremony. There's one word here, spectacular. It goes with effective English. It also goes with everyday English. Spectacular means grand, eye-catching. On a large scale, something is eye-catching. We use the word spectacular. The combination words spectacular display, one combination. Another combination, usually at the time of Diwali, we say spectacular fireworks. Another combination. Spectacular opening on ceremony, spectacular opening ceremony on a scale means magnitude. Very grand also you can say. Very good. On a scale means on a magnitude that has now come to be expected from China. Here, put the word now in brackets, ask a question, which tense is this? Has come to be expected from China. Has come, present perfect active voice. To be expected, something is expected, and to be expected in passive. To be expected from China. And what is objective? Are meant to showcase a broader message of Asian solidarity. There are two words here. Let us take the first one. Showcase, which part of speech is it? Usually we use it as a noun. When you enter someone's house, people make a mistake. First room, they say hall. That should not be called a hall. The first room, when you enter someone's house, there are two words. One is living room, the other one, drawing room. Never say hall. In the living room or the drawing room, you come across a showcase. That is noun. But in this context, it has been used as what? Showcase in this context, a verb, means to display. Imagine there's a designer. She has come up with a lot of new designs and she is ready to showcase her designs. Means what? She is ready to display. You can also use the word exhibit. Wonderful. Who is that? Haripriya. Exhibit or display. And these are meant, what is objective? These are meant to showcase or exhibit or display a broader message of Asian solidarity. Solidarity, which part of speech is it? I strongly recommend you guys should write the part of speech immediately. That will help in the long run. Solidarity, noun, means unity. Solidarity among the members, unity among the members. But unfortunately, did not happen because of a particular event. that is denial of entry to Arunachal Pradesh athletes. The days leading up to the opening ceremony. Here the subject is the days. After that we have a phrase with a non-finite verb leading up to the opening ceremony of the 19th edition. When you read a sentence, you should have the ability to identify the subject, the phrases, the clauses, and you have to put those phrases and clauses in brackets and ask the question, what is the subject, what is the verb? Their days, all these words in brackets, then you can judge whether it is right or wrong. The days were, however, marked by anything but. This is a little strange sentence that looks rather incomplete. What it means, the previous sentence talks about the objective of Asian Games. What is objective? Solidarity, message of the continent, Asian solidarity. But the days were, however, marked by anything but, means anything except solidarity. That was missing. That's what the sentence means. The day before the opening, what exactly happened? Now, here, introduction about Asian Games over, objective over, but contrast. What is the contrast? It did not happen the way it is supposed to happen. Now, why does editorial talk about that? What exactly happened? The next sentence talks about denial of entry to Indian athletes. The day before the opening, Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur cancelled his visit to China as a mark of protest. This is an important expression, as a mark of protest, to the last minute denial of entry to three Indian wushu players from Arunachal Pradesh. This is the bone of contention or apple of discord, cause of dispute. Based on that, actually what happened, three Indian wushu players from Arunachal Pradesh were denied. They were not allowed to board the plane. Based on that, the Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur cancelled his visit to China as a mark of protest. And already have explained the meaning of the word denial. Deny, verb, denial, noun. Of entry to three Indian wushu players. I don't know what exactly the sport deals with. At the 11th hour means last minute. Wushu players. Then the editorial provides what happened in the past. Here, denial of entry to Indian athletes, then past. Who were these athletes? The three athletes, Naiman Wangsu, Omilu Tega, and Mepang Lamgu, were given the accreditation needed to travel along with the rest of the Indian team for the games. There's another word here, accreditation. Part of speech, accreditation. Obviously, what is it? Noun. And what does it mean? Official recognition. Official recognition, we use the word accreditation. The three athletes, all the three, were given, again past tense passive voice, the accreditation needed to travel along with the rest of the Indian team for the games. And the editorial provides contrasting information. However, in what appears to be a directive issued to the airline by China, the athletes were told they could not board their flight. They got the accreditation, means what? Official recognition. They were supposed to be allowed. But, however, in what appears to be a directive, an instruction issued to the airline by China, the athletes were told, again in passive voice, past tense. But whenever you come across words like said, told, asked, ordered, requested, urged, warned, you have to think of indirect speech. And you have to guess what it is in direct speech. And same thing goes with active voice, passive voice. You cannot board the flight, perhaps the actual statement. And when you report, they said that they could not board the flight. Can changes to could. That you have to focus on. The athletes were told that they could not board their flight. Now it talks about criticism based on what happened in the past. China has in the past issued staple visas to Indians from Arunachal Pradesh. Only in July, these three wushu players from Arunachal Pradesh, due to take part in the World University Games in Chengdu, were issued staple visas. But coming to the present, in this instance, the decision to bar. In this context, a bar, actually, bar is what? A noun. It has many meanings. In this context, bar is what? A verb. What does it mean? Prohibit. Bar the athletes appears particularly vindictive, an important word. Vindictive approach, vindictive stand, part of speech, adjective. What does it mean? Revengeful. You can also think of the word avengeful. Revengeful, avengeful. Appears particularly vindictive as visas were not needed to travel for athletes issued digital accreditations. Imagine a particular athlete has been issued or has been given digital accreditation, then that athlete does not need a visa to travel. In spite of that, they were denied. There was a denial of entry. You can think of the word vendetta. That's very good. Political vendetta, a typical combination. Indian officials believe. Now, what is the stand taken by Indian officials? Indian officials believe, present tense, Beijing thus went out of its way. That's an important expression you have to remember. Generally, we say he went out of the way to help someone. She went out of the way to get the work done. Have you heard of this expression? Go out of the way means not the normal path, going off the track. To bar their travel by instructing the airline to not allow them to board. Telling the airline not to allow three athletes from Arunachal Pradesh is nothing but going out of the way. Now it talks about the stand again, India, how India responded. The Ministry of External Affairs, in a statement, described the action as targeted and premeditated. There's one important expression here, premeditated. What does it mean? We have got a few times. Part of speech, adjective. Premeditated action means pre planned. Pre planned. Usually it goes with crime context. Premeditated action, premeditated crime means a pre planned. When it comes to crime, we also use one expression. It goes with murder. What is it? Cold blooded murder. I'm sure you have heard of this. Cold blooded murder without any emotions and pre planned, intentional, deliberate. The first part refers to introduction of Asian Games objective, but contrasting stand taken by China, no solidarity, denial of entry to Indian athletes, and in the past they were given the staple visas, but in this incident they were denied in spite of the fact they got the digital accreditations, and once they get digital accreditation, no need of any visa. Criticism based on that and response of Indian government. And now it talks about the past actions related to using sporting events to gain or to score geopolitical points. This is unfortunately not the first instance. The first ordinal number, we have to use a definite article. What is this spoken English? Who is this? Please elaborate that. What do you mean by spoken English? This is unfortunately not the first instance or incident of Beijing using sporting events. The editorial talks about China using sporting events to score political, geopolitical points. And second part touches that particular dimension, reiteration and justification. This is unfortunately not the first instance of Beijing using sporting events that should have no place for politics to score geopolitical points. Generally speaking, sporting events should be neutral. There should not be politics, and no country should use sporting events to score geopolitical points. But unfortunately, China has been doing that. And to substantiate that statement, editorial gives two or three examples. First one here, in February last year, Beijing ill-advisedly, this is an important expression, ill-advised, is it positive or negative? Here the part of speech is adverb. Generally we use one expression, what is that? Ill-fated flight, ill-fated train. What does it mean? Positive or negative? It means negative. Something that goes in the negative direction. Ill-fated flight, negative, obviously. Based on that, in February last year, Beijing ill-advisedly selected the People's Liberation Army's commander involved in the Galvan Valley crash as one of the torchbearers for the Winter Olympics. Last year, China conducted Winter Olympics, February last year. And that particular sporting event, they chose a person who is at the People's Liberation Army's commander involved in the Galvan Valley clash as selected as what? One of the torchbearers for the Winter Olympics. I'm sure you all know when it comes to the Olympics, it all begins from a particular country. Someone lights the torch, and the sports players they hold the torch, and the torch goes from one country to another country. And the person who holds that torch is called torch bearer. That is one meaning, that is a meaning in this context. But torch bearers, let me use as a compound noun, torch bearers of a particular civilization or particular culture. When it comes to a particular country, in any country, a particular group, they take the lead, they are considered the torch bearers. If you take the US, there are 50 states. One of the 50 states, California. Whatever happens in California, first happens there, then others in the US follow, then others in the world follow. So Californians are considered the torch bearers of American culture. In our country, in the past, we would say Bengalis, people from Bengal, were considered in the past torch bearers of Indian culture. We got great people from Bengal. So Bengalis are considered torch bearers of Indian culture. Past, not in the present. Two meanings you have to know. Coming to both then and now, the organizers have appeared more than happy to look the other way. More than happy to look the other way, given China's status as both a willing host and strong financial backer of such events. What do you understand from this sentence? The organizers did not try to object. Both then and now, the organizers have appeared more than happy to look the other way. Means they ignored this. Why? What could be the reason? Given China's status as both a willing host, again you have to focus on both end. A willing host. But willing host is one thing, the other dimension very important. Strong financial backer of such events. Events on a large scale, the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, the Asian Games, they involve a lot of money. Stakes are very high. A lot of money has to be pumped in. So the country which hosts has to spend a lot of money. And China, it seems, stands out a willing host and also strong financial backer. Keeping that in mind, organizers try to ignore because there is a reason behind that. The acting to justify that statement, perhaps, the acting president of the Olympic Council of Asia, Randhir Singh, who met with President Xi in Hangzhou In remarks to journalists, chose not to call out. How many of you know the meaning of the phrasal verb call out? Generally, call out, you may think calling someone out, but here call out, an important phrasal verb. It means object officially to an unacceptable behavior. You try to object officially to an unacceptable behavior. They did not chose not to call out, chose not to object. The denial of entry to athletes, instead only saying the matter was being discussed. Is being discussed, present continuous passive voice, was being discussed, past continuous passive voice. Now it talks about the bilateral diplomatic relations and border issues. Beyond the Asian Games, the latest Chinese action serves as a reminder of the current distrust in bilateral relations, as well as of the absence of adequate channels of communication to deal with long persisting thorny issues, including visas. Here, persist as such means exist for a long time, exist for a long time. I am a bit surprised why the writer has used a long persisting. Persist means exist for a long time. Thorny issues means a bone of contention or apple of discord, causes of dispute, thorny issues, including visas, the present one. New Delhi has correctly made clear that restoring normalcy, call for restoring normalcy in relations will not be possible without completing the disengagement process along the line of actual control and restoring peace in border areas. To restore normalcy, two things are required. One, disengagement process along the LAC, line of actual control, and restoring peace in border areas. Until Beijing reviews its stance, part of speech noun, means a stand taken by. Imagine a particular issue, controversial. Controversial issue, we ask a question, what is your stand on this? What is your stance on this? Means what's your opinion? Do you support or do you oppose? So that's what it means. How does the editorial end? Until Beijing reviews its stance on the border, the current state of affairs, which suits neither India nor China, is likely to endure. Endure, I'm sure you all know we have got many a time. Part of speech, it's a regular verb. To last, L-A-S-T, last or to exist for a long time. And usually it goes with endure pain, endure problems, means face problems for a long time. That's all about the editorial. And brief outline you should always remember. Then you get an idea how they write. So, what is this about Asian Games? Why have they written something happened? What happened? Denial of entry to three Indian athletes. Then, past, what did they do? They allowed. Present, they did not allow. What could be the reasons? Based on that, what is the stand taken by India? And what is the stand taken by the organizers? And using this backdrop, the editorial talks about the present bilateral ties between India and China. And obviously, when it comes to bilateral ties, we always talk about restoring peace and normalcy. What has to be done to restore normalcy? The editorial ends on that particular note. Now, let us go to questions, objective multiple choice to improve your comprehension skill. Read the first question and try to answer. What was the reason for Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur cancelling his visit to China before the Asian Games opening ceremony? There are four options. You have to choose one option. Which one is that? You have listened to me. You should be able to answer effortlessly. Who is the first one? Anusha is the first one. She got it right. Last minute denial of entry to three Indian wushu players from Arunachal Pradesh. Very good. What action did China take that led to the denial of entry for three Indian wushu players from Arunachal Pradesh? China did something, and because of that, or that resulted in denial of entry for three Indian wushu players. What is that? Issuing staple visas, they did in the past. This time they did not do that. So that is not the answer. Refusing digital accreditations. Not the first one. No, no. Second one is not the first one. What action did China take that led to the denial of entry? Three Indian wushu players from Arunachal Pradesh. It should be the second one. The editorial says once the players get digital accreditation, there is no need of visa. And China did not recognize, did not consider digital accreditation. Because of that, it has resulted in denial of entry. Had they accepted digital accreditations, the players would have entered. Banning all Indian athletes? No. What controversial decision did Beijing make regarding the Winter Olympics mentioned in the passage? Passage talks about what happened in the past, Winter Olympics, something controversial. You all have the same wavelength. That is true. Selecting a Galwan Valley clash survivor as a torchbearer. What controversial decision did Beijing make regarding the Winter Olympics mentioned in the passage? Answer is the first one. A question like this, you should be damn sure. And after that, you don't have to focus on or you don't have to look at the other options. Not at all required. Answer is the first option. How did the acting president of the Olympic Council of Asia, Ranveer Singh, respond to the denial of entry to athletes in the Asian Games? How did the president of Olympic Council of Asia respond? He strongly condemned China's actions? No. He chose not to address the issue directly. Hold this one. He called for a boycott? No. He demanded an apology? No. So what is the answer here? Answer is the second option, 4B. Very good. Question number 5. What does the passage suggest about the current state of India-China relations? The bilateral ties between India and China, what does the passage suggest? Both countries are working together to resolve their differences? No. There is a lack of trust and communication in bilateral relations. Hold this one. The disengagement process along the line of actual control has been completed? No. Both countries are satisfied with the status quo in border areas? No. Answer is what? No, no. Fifth one, answer C. Has been completed. No, no, that is not the answer. Answer is B. B is the answer, not C. What does the passage suggest about the current state of India-China relations? In current state of India-China relations, a lack of trust and communication in bilateral relations. Do you think that both countries are satisfied with the status quo in border areas? No way. Do you think the line of actual control disengagement process completed? No way. Are they working together? No. The answer is B, obviously. Look at this writing skill assignment I have brought for the first time. Give it a try. Always remember, initially, everything is difficult. Let me read out. Write a letter to the editor of a newspaper in response to the editorial. Express your thoughts on how international sporting events can be better protected from political interference and suggest measures that organizers and participating nations should take to ensure fair and impartial competitions. You have to express your views based on this editorial. and you have to write a letter to the editor of a newspaper in response to this editorial. It is not easy, but give it a try. That will help in the long run. Let us go to practice questions based on exam topics, error location, and Saturday. All of you, please remember, because of my tight schedule, I will and have been doing it. Do the editorial analysis on Monday to Friday. Saturday, usually last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I haven't been doing on Saturdays. That may continue for some time. And Sunday, as such, Hindu does not publish the editorial. Saturday, don't expect. If at all I'm free, I will do it. Otherwise, don't expect. Monday to Friday. So Saturday, I did not do the editorial. From Saturday's editorials, two editorials. One is related to census, the other related to the US president impeachment. Unfamiliar context, try to spot. Naidu first one, then Ganesh also, Anusha, they got it right. What is the subject here? Census. And the sentence is in present tense affirmative. Then census considered singular. You have to add s or es to the verb. Census collect, not correct. Census collects. Subject, verb, agreement. Go to question number 2. On September 20th, Home Minister Amit Shah told the Lok Sabha that the census will take place after the 2024 general election. Exactly, Naidu, you're right. Go to question number 2. Data, datum singular, data plural. Data can also be a collective noun. Good. I appreciate those who recollect immediately. That will help in the long run. No one has responded question number 2. On September 20th, that means it goes into the past. Home Minister Amit Shah told, I have already said, whenever you come across said, a statement, asked, a question, told or ordered, command, and a requested, a request, you have to think of indirect speech. Then will changes to what? Would. In the newspaper, they have used will, but exam point of view, that is not right. I have brought the actual sentence from the newspaper, from the editorial. The editorial says, on September 20th, Home Minister Amit Shah told the Lok Sabha that the census will take place after the 2024 general election. Exam point of view, it is not correct. It should be would. The proposed 33% reservation for women in parliament and assemblies are linked to the next census and delimitation, which adds an additional import, an additional important dimension. Again, you have to know what the subject is and what the phrase is. The proposed 33% reservation, that is a subject, a noun phrase. In every phrase, there is a key word. What is the key word here? Reservation. And after that, for women, one phrase. In parliament and assemblies, another phrase. Put the phrases always in brackets. Then you ask reservation are or reservation is. Reservation is linked to the next census. This is also based on subject verb agreement. Under pressure, a bit difficult. Now you have a para jumble related to the second editorial, impeachment of the US President Joe Biden. Try to get the correct order, unfamiliar context, but always start with elimination approach. And can it be the first one? If one student responds, then I will continue. Any part that begins with a conjunction cannot be the first one. Don't consider. Again, you have and cannot be the first one. A week earlier seems could be, hold that one. With shipping lanes, no subject cannot be the first one. Chasing a normalization agreement, no subject cannot be the first one. Possible, F also. Now you have to decide between C and F. What is the first one here? It is about something happened at the G20 summit. Do help regarding what? What is this? Please do help. Regarding what? I could not see the comment. At the G20 summit in New Delhi earlier this month, US President Joe Biden and others unveiled a US backed infrastructure project to connect India, West Asia, and Europe. Connect with what? Ask the question. You have to take the elimination approach, one thing, and you have to understand, identify the pairs, second thing. Then you have to think of the broad framework that comes with a lot of reading, exposure to the language, exposure to the contexts, and exposure to different styles of presenting information. No, it is not A. Third one is D. All the three form one group. At the G20 summit in New Delhi earlier this month, US President Joe Biden and others unveiled a US backed infrastructure project to connect India, West Asia, and Europe with what? Shipping lanes, rail networks, pipelines, and data cables. Crystal clear. Then you have to start with what happened subsequent to that. A week earlier, a high level US delegation had visited Saudi Arabia, chasing a normalization agreement between the Sunni kingdom. Here you got to be a little careful. C, it is not A, CE. Chasing a normalization agreement between the Sunni kingdom and the Jewish state of Israel, two of America's allies in the region. These three form one group. Good, very good. Let us go to the Cloze Test, again based on the US president's impeachment. There are 8 blanks, 8 words, and you're exposed for the first time, I suppose. Try to get all the 8 correct. The recent announcement by the US House of Representatives Speaker, Republican Kevin McCarthy, that the lower chamber of Congress would move to what? You have all the words, 8 words. What is E here? Very good. Here, move to impeach. Impeach President Joe Biden is likely to be along expected lines as far as Democrats are. No, one is E, impeach. Oh, I see different options. G, H, E, but a lot of students have chosen E. That is the right word. Second one, likely to be along expected lines as far as Democrats are concerned. A is the second one. With the next presidential election in a little more than 13 months, the Republicans have much to gain by. The clue for you here, the waters. Someone wants to spoil a situation. There is one expression. Muddy the waters. Muddy means make the waters dirty. In this context, create a problem. So what is the word for the third blank? Have much to gain by muddying the waters. That is a word that goes with the waters. Muddying the waters and distracting voters from the fact that the US economy has, from the pandemic years, slowed down. Sentence talks about they want to distract voters from something positive. What is positive? After the pandemic, during the pandemic, it slowed down and it has bounced back. Based on that, distract voters from the fact that the US economy has grammar knowledge also has what? You cannot use tenuous, guns, accruing, Rebounded, you need the verb in past participle form. Has rebounded from the pandemic year slowdown. Amidst of obvious political targets. Amidst what? This is a bit difficult. Dearth of. Dearth is an important word. Dearth means what? Shortage. Amidst already you have got many a time. In the middle of a dearth of obvious political targets. Here it is H. Dearth means shortage. Dearth of obvious political targets within the democratic machinery. Mr. McCarthy has chosen to go after the president's son, businessman Hunter Biden, training his, this is an idiomatic expression, training his what? No, sixth one is not tenuous. Training his guns. Train your guns means, train your guns on someone means try to attack someone, target someone. No, sixth one is not tenuous. Sixth one is training his guns on his business dealings, targeting his business dealings that allegedly resulted in benefits accruing. Seventh one is accruing. Very good. F is a word. Accruing to the senior Mr. Biden during his term as vice president in the Obama administration. The House majority case against the Biden clan appears to be something appears to be weak. What is the word for weak? Tenuous. Who has got all the 8 correct? That is wonderful because I have not given enough time and you did not work on this editorial. Saturday, I did not bring any editorial. In spite of that, getting all the 8 correct, wonderful, highly appreciable. That's all for today. Today, no vocabulary consolidation. Tomorrow, you're going to get words based on today's editorial. Thanks for being with me till the fag end of the session. Obviously, I'm going to bring one familiar, the other unfamiliar. Anisha, all 8 correct, wonderful. That's all for today. Tripura Sundari also. Thank you. I will see you guys tomorrow. Do remember to subscribe and share.